Hey, welcome back to the Merriment Making podcast for a special video episode. And I am going to talk to you about the end of the year. So, I remember when I was working at a 9 to 5, how that feeling you get between December 26th and the 30th was like the weirdest week ever. The emails stop, the calendar is just lying there, and you're not quite resting, you're not quite working, and suddenly you're supposed to just like reflect on your entire life, and it was like, no, thank you. So today I want to do something different, and instead of telling you how you should wrap up your year, because there are no shoulds in life, I'm gonna just walk you through exactly how I do mine, and I'm going to give you a bunch of ideas of how you can have a fun and unhinged, silly, absurdist kind of both reflection and celebration of the end of the year. It's not really necessarily a highlight reel. It's not even really a glow up story, but it is a real, tangible, slightly messy process that will help me close out a year without shame and entering the new one without punishment either. So you can copy this, you can remix it, and you can listen to this while you're folding laundry and take nothing from it except just some permission and solace. That counts too. So why I wrap up the new year all at once? I'm not really reflecting because I'm trying to optimize myself, although I do believe obviously in self-improvement and wanting to be the best version of myself. I'm reflecting because if I don't pause, I feel like my nervous system kind of carries into the next year like I'm an open browser tab that's just not stopping. You know, like when you go to a new tab and it's just playing that audio automatically. I feel like that's kind of what it feels like. So reflection is how I kind of pause and close loops. And then celebration is how I am acknowledging survival. And absurdity for me is how I am staying regulated while doing both of those things. So this is what it actually looks like. The first part is where I'm reflecting on the year. What I first do is I print out my Merry New Year reflection workbook. And yes, I do print it because something changes when things are physical. Screens are where I'm performing and paper is where I'm like telling the real truth. And it's for myself, you know? So this is it's not a very long workbook, but it's substantial. It's full of prompts. This is something that I've been doing for about more than 10 years now. And I decided a couple years back to just share it with you guys. So these are my actual prompts that I've been using for more than a decade that help me to wrap up my year. They are very helpful. They're very helpful. I will sit somewhere comfortable, like with snacks. Maybe I'm on the floor, in bed. There's really no requirement in terms of what I feel when I'm doing it, but I start with the top 5 lists. So in here, there's a bunch of them. I'm not going to give them all away, but there's, top 5 moments and surprises and things that mattered more than I expected. There's also things like media, my fave artists and songs and comedy shows and things that I made, and you can also add anything that you want, things that protected you, things that drained you. It's just kind of about getting into this mindset. And the idea is to just do 5. It's not everything, it's just 5. Obviously, you can do more, you can do whatever you'd like, but that's kind of where I start. And I'm also kind of just digging through this for evidence, not just judgment, really. Not to be noble, but to find the funny stuff, I will open up my happy journals, my gratitude journals, and I will look through and think about all the funny things that I said, the things I forgot, moments that didn't really seem important at the time, but I'm like making connections. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I will kind of look at the collaborations that I got to participate in. Maybe they felt small or difficult, but they actually really did move the needle towards something. And this is where I start to see proof that the year was fuller than my memory wants me to admit it. I will flip through my journals, my art journals. It's not to reread everything, it's to notice these patterns. And I will also go back and use anything that I can as evidence for like algorithms and things. When you get the opportunity to have something that's like a wrap up session, like Spotify wrap up or ChatGPT wrap up, I think using those is also very helpful to figure out like, oh, these were the top songs that I was listening to and things like that. So if you get the opportunity to do that, fantastic. I will notice like the ideas that I kept circling, the questions that kept returning, the threads that I do want to continue into the new year. This is good for me for content, so to speak, but it's also really good for self-trust. So I'll make a list of accomplishments. So I will write down everything. every single thing that I can do. Not just big wins, but things like I read a book, I kept going, I asked for help, I survived this, I rested when I needed to, I didn't quit when it got boring. I will write down literally every single thing. This is why I'm really big on documentation, taking photos, writing things down, making lists. I don't have the most reliable memory anymore, so it's very helpful for me to be able to go back and reflect on those things with that helpful documentation. And then what I'll do is I will make kind of reflection based things. So I'll make a reflection podcast. I will make a highlight visual video reel. Other things you can do when you're going through a reflecting, you can look through your phone and you can go through all your screenshots and you can kind of check to see what you've saved. You can think about like, these are all the things that I felt were important to me, and really just organizing your phone too. So, deleting all the junk and everything that you don't need anymore. But if there is something that you took a picture of that you're like, oh wow, I forgot about this, you can start to make folders and say like, okay, this is something that I want to use for inspiration. This is something that I want to visit. This is something I want to try. And then don't just leave them in the folder, but transition that into a goal so you can utilize that in the new year. You can also take a look at like the goals that you have that you don't want to do anymore. You can look back at the goals that you had at the beginning of the year and see like, how far did I make it on this? Were these goals something that I could even measure? Was this like a good kind of goal for me? Is this something that I want to retire? Is this something that I want to say that I did accomplish? Is this something I want to carry into the new year? I like doing like the reflection and the documentation of it too, just because that wrap up for me, I mean, it is fun for Instagram and stuff, but again, I have the not most reliable memory, so my brain kind of tends to forget what my body lived. And I know that's not a unique experience, especially as we age. So then, like, with the goals, last year's goals, not trying to necessarily grade myself. I mean, that is part of what this is. We want to see, like, did we make progress here? But I really want to help notice what was moving forward naturally. Sometimes if we forget to check in with our goals, we will accidentally like accomplish something regardless. And then we'll forget, I forgot I even cared about this. And then that's why you're like, maybe I don't want to continue this anymore. Maybe I do want to retire it. What's no longer a fit for the life that I'm in now? What changed so radically? Is there a value that shifted? Some goals get continued, some get retired. Remember that retiring a goal isn't a failure, it's just honesty. I think it's also important to look at the things that maybe have been goals for a couple years, right? What have you not been putting your priorities towards that you say that you want, and what's keeping you from doing that? If you can't seem to put your focus into one area, maybe that's because you are too scared about what the secondary benefits are that are linked with this. If I lose this part of me, that means that I have to do this. I might have fear around being successful or happy or responsibility. Or maybe it's actually that you think that you're supposed to have this kind of goal, but it's actually not for you. So that's part of this reflection. And then I'm going to look ahead with curiosity and not pressure and think about like, what do I want from the next year? What do I want for myself? On the actual night of New Year's Eve, I like to do, it's something that I started doing like a long time ago when I was like way more into tarot cards and things like that. I'm not really into all that stuff anymore, but I still kind of do it just once a year because I think it's fun. And I do this like big tarot spread. I think it's 8 cards. I always look it up every year because now I forget because I'm so out of touch with it. But I think it's a New Year's spread. You can look it up, and I just pull 8 different cards, and each placement has a different meaning. So it's like, this is your theme for the year. This is like the issue that you're going to have. I'll look up each card and how that relates to that space on the plot of the grid. And then I'll write that down in my phone and then kind of look back and be like, was this real? Was this a good prediction or no? I think the whole point with tarot and things like that, astrology and human design and all of that, we have no idea if it's real. We can argue logically that it's not or whatever, but I think it's all just another way to reflect. So it points out the things that are coming up in your mind that are maybe lying dormant. A tarot card is the thing that's doing that, then like, who cares, I'll look back at the old one and then I'll pull a new one and write it down. And it's not for me to be like, oh, I have to follow this, or this is definitely what's going to happen. It's more just like language and understanding. You know what I mean? Okay, so then I will do like kind of like a proof thing. So I mentioned like looking at screenshots and stuff, but this is also for looking at the kind messages, my testimonials, my reviews, notes of things that I saved from my friends because I needed them. I will clean up my phone, like I mentioned, and turn those saved posts into folders, the inspiration, places to visit, things to try. I will update my bucket list. I will look at the Spotify Wrap, the ChatGPT Wrap, all those things that are reflecting the patterns back to me. I also like to make a list of things that are popular from this year. What is common right now in pop culture? You know, when we look back at 2002 or 1985, we can say, like, this is how people were dressing. This is what we were listening to. This is so, like, iconic for that moment. I try to kind of look around and say, like, what is it that came up this year that didn't exist before? Or when we try to look back at this year, what is it that would have been so unique to this year? So, like last year, I wrote down that all those Tesla things where you can plug in your car, like those weren't around, and all of a sudden they were everywhere, right? But then you can also kind of just Google and research things like what kind of music is the most popular? Because for me, I am not listening to the radio anymore, so I really have no idea. I'm at the age now when I watch SNL that I don't know the musical guests, and a lot of times I don't even know the guests. It's kind of fun to once a year even be around the knowledge of the pop culture of what is happening, what are the fashion trends and all that kind of stuff. What is like unique for this year? And you don't have to do it politically. You can just notice the trends of things that are changing. Context matters, and we don't live in a vacuum, and it doesn't have to be just about your life. It can be about the world. What I can do also is not just having that highlight visual reel. I like to make an end of the year newsletter, and I send that out. I can post it online. I can also do the podcast reflection episode. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but the completion is internal first. And then the next thing that I can do is tying up loose ends. So this matters more than motivation, I think, because before New Year's Eve, I like to do some practical closing. When I grew up, my mom was so into this general ritual of having everything really tidy, clean, and fresh before the new year. She said that it was a German tradition. I'm not sure if that's real or not, but she learned it from her mom, who was German. But it was just something that I really liked. It's kind of like at the end of the day, you know, cleaning up, making sure there's no dishes in the sink, and how, like, when you wake up, everything's kind of ready to go for you. It's that, but for the new year. We can also do that not just tangibly in our house of making sure your bed sheets are clean and it's vacuumed and tidy and all of that, but you can do other things for closing and tidying enough to feel oriented. Maybe it is making your list of accomplishments and the top 5 lists and checking your goals, but it could be also like organizing your files and returning borrowed items, or decluttering a drawer, opening up your mail, donating clothes you didn't wear. It's like energy hygiene. The unfinished things that we leave lingering will follow us around. How much can you kind of just at the end of the year? Inside my Merry New Year plan program, I offer this list of 25 ways to tie up loose ends. It's not really a checklist, it's just ideas. It's a menu you can pick up, and you don't have to do all of them, but you just pick the ones that will make your year feel lighter. Now let's talk about New Year's Eve. The night itself, what I don't do is I'm not trying to force meaning or demand a transformation at midnight and pretend like a calendar flip is going to change my personality, because we do need to acknowledge that just because it's going from December 31st to January 1st doesn't mean really anything, right? This is just a time where you get to decide if you want to reflect. It's all up to you. I like to do this also around my birthday. And really, I think just generally the solstice and equinoxes are good reflection period points, but there is no real, quote, magic about the calendar flipping into a new year. I mean, we don't really even understand time. We added months because of Caesar. I don't know that it's even really a Monday today when I'm recording this. It's all very strange. But what I do know is that what I'm doing is I'm trying to celebrate, you know, the fact that I'm still here, that I'm alive, that I've survived, and I've done it with silliness and style. And sometimes what that means is I will plan out my night. In the past, I've gone out with friends, and I've had all different kinds of New Year's Eves. Trust me. I have had New Year's Eves where I've gone to clubs and drinking and parties. The idea of going to a crowded place at midnight now on New Year's Eve sounds like literal torture. I've gone to raves and I've done acid inside. I mean, I have done everything between. But lately, what I like to do is either just be with a small group of friends and hang out, or be alone and reflect and just pick out an outfit, then change into pajamas later, kind of do all of this reflection stuff all at once. I might print out a bunch of images from Pinterest, and then instead of making vision boards anymore, I found that they became a little bit cumbersome and I felt kind of guilty getting rid of them. So what I do now is I tape them into my gratitude journals, my happy journals, my art journals, and I use them so they're flowing through instead of having it all up. And then that's another piece of motivation to be using them every single day. I will kind of pre-tape them in so my journal is ready to go. It's all ready, you know, I can put stickers and stuff, pre-decorate it so that all I have to do is write when I come in. And then it feels better to write in it when I come because it's not just a blank piece of paper. And then I kind of lean into being absurd and celebrating. Here are some things that you could do if you're alone. You could take a thirst trap selfie in your most unsexy outfit, onesie, pajamas, your hair is unwashed, and your eyes are still glowing. The caption could just be the year, the old year, the new year, whatever. You could do a solo photo shoot that's titled A Woman Who Made It Through This Year. Dramatic poses, ridiculous angles. You don't have to post it either. You could wear something sparkly while doing something deeply unglamorous, like cleaning your house and folding laundry. You can make a playlist that's like songs that I deserve credit for surviving to, and then dance badly to it. You can eat dessert first, or two desserts, or only dessert all day. You can eat dessert standing in the kitchen like a raccoon that's feral. You can scroll through your camera reel and act like you're a sports narrator saying your life out loud. You're narrating your growth as a commentator. You could write a list called Proof I Did Not Disappear This Year and then put it away immediately or burn it. You could rename the year something completely dramatic and flattering also, like the year I was braver than I looked, the season of quiet chaos, still hot, yet slightly tired. You can wear a party hat alone and refuse the irony of it, just like commit fully to the party hat. And you can also go to bed immediately after midnight or before, like a powerful creature that knows their limits. And at some point, do something celebratory that feels indulgent but still kind, you know? Not because you earned it, but because you are still alive, you're still here. It doesn't matter what it is, wearing a onesie and just being hot about it. You don't have to watch the countdown, you don't have to go to a club, you don't have to do anything. You get to yell we did it without knowing what it is. You get to do whatever you want. And then if you're with other people, you can still apply the same energy. You can celebrate earlier than you think you're supposed to and make resolutions that you're not keeping and then eulogize them, bury them, burn them. You can toast to nonsense and name things that have stayed with you. You could decide that midnight isn't what you're celebrating. Maybe you're celebrating 8:47, so everyone's out by 9. You can have a resolution funeral, right? Like the eulogy. You can have everyone bring a resolution and say something that they are absolutely not doing this year, like an anti-resolution thing. You can have a New Year's same nonsense toast and say, I'm still here, or I'm toasting our group chat. I'm toasting that chair that I saw in the bathroom. I really liked that one. You can toast with toast, like bread. That's always silly. You can give out year superlatives to each person. It can be so ridiculous. Like, this person had the most confusing month. This person had the most character development. This person had the most unnecessary stress. I'm so sorry. And this person had the funniest breakdown that didn't win, but deserves recognition. You could have like a memory grab bag where everyone writes down something they remember from the year, their favorite thing. You could like shuffle it up and then read it anonymously. You could do fake predictions for the new year. Like, this person's gonna lose their phone, but I think they're also gonna find a better jacket. You could have an altar that you build where everybody brings something and they leave stuff behind, movie ticket stubs or receipts, notes, objects, and you could do it like real dramatically. You could get like ceremonial robes. You could have a chair of gratitude. You could decorate the chair, and when you sit in it, you have to say one thing that you loved about the year or that you like about the other people. You could, instead of like a resolution, you could say like, this is something that I am no longer explaining anymore to myself or to anybody else. You can also have a different theme. It doesn't have to be New Year, New Me. It could be New Year, No More Performance, or we tried our best, allegedly. You can make banners out of these. This is our soft launch of our new versions. Time is fake, snacks are real, or survived another one. I don't know. It can be funny and silly. You can also, as a group, and you could do this by yourself too, you could do little kindness missions, merriment missions. You could write notes to strangers that you're going to leave around on the new year. You could actually go do this on New Year's Eve. There's so many people out. I did this one year with my friend. We made little things to leave around town. You can also record a voice note to your future self. You don't have to end the holiday night with fireworks and this like forced sense of enthusiasm and joy. You can name something that you're proud of surviving and a way that you did show up this year, something that you're proud of. You could take a group photo that's just unpolished and raw and silly and you're laughing and just still go home feeling intact and not super exhausted. This is the real part that I want you to hear. You don't need necessarily more discipline right now. You don't need full reinvention or to dominate next year. I think what we need is orientation and permission and maybe a new way to close out a chapter without it dragging behind you like a lugging suitcase kind of thing. So that's why I made the Merry New Year plan. It's just this simple, easy space for reflection and celebration and goal setting that isn't punishing. It's for those days, if you like, in between December 26th and to December 31st, where the time feels fake and you don't know what to do. It's for New Year's Eve, whether you're alone or you're surrounded by your chosen people. It can be for the beginning of January when you're still in that reflection period, when you want direction without burnout. What you get inside is awesome and crazy. It's like $2,800 worth of stuff, but it's so cheap. And you get my personal workbook that I make. That's like my favorite thing in there, honestly. But you also get past end of the year workshops that I've hosted. You get a tapping for an end of the year release, a meditation for closing out the year. You did enough this year pep talk. You get these like Mad Libs that you can fill in to make sure that you're having your favorite best New Year's Eve ever. There's 90 ways to make New Year's Eve unforgettable and fun. There's playlists and New Year's Eve themed TV episodes. There's positive affirmation graphics and phone wallpapers. And then there's a bunch of stuff on goal setting. So there's 9 lessons on goals and resolutions that are clear and kind and actually usable. You learn how to make goals and resolutions that feel aligned instead of obligatory. There's 10 self-love New Year's resolutions. There's 10 things to stop doing in the new year. There's a visualization called Fill Yourself with Meaning to reconnect to why and what you want. There's a creative dreams visualization for the parts of you that you are still imagining. There's tips for not procrastinating. There's 50 ways to add merriment to your life. There's a printable reward chart. There's so much for real. I mentioned there's like the 25 ways to tie up loose ends. There's a lot of really cool stuff. Honestly, even if you just got the workbook, it would be worth it. But if you're interested and this episode was like, hey, I like all these kinds of ideas. I'm interested in reflecting on my year and making a fun New Year's that feels more like me instead of this cookie cutter idea of what I think I'm supposed to do on New Year's Eve, then you can explore the program at uncustomary.org/New Year. There's no rush or pressure. It's just like a gentle, fun way to step into the new year. So I hope these ideas were fun and helpful. However you end this year, I hope you do it fun and kindly with yourself, absurdly if needed, and celebratory if possible, and soft where it counts. You are allowed to meet the next season as yourself, and remember that you have to feel good to do good. I love you, and I will talk to you soon.